Well, hello, thank you for joining me today again on the Church History Trail. You're very welcome to the programme, and as you can see, we're at another old church, and we're just across the road really from Dunluce Castle. And when I was in the old graveyard at Portrush, the old church and graveyard earlier, I got talking to a lady who was walking her dog, and she was telling me about this church here and a connection with the Spanish Armada, which I didn't actually know about. So I'll talk a wee bit about the Spanish Armada shortly. But fantastic to still have this church. So it is. And there's a number of old graves here as well. And this one here is from the 18th century. And I think it's William Nicol, it says there. And he died the 20th of June 1782, if you can see that. 1782. So that's an old grave there. So it's great to have this old church, isn't it? Brilliant. As I say, I wouldn't have knew about this only for that lady. And she was also telling me that the reason why some of the churches don't have roofs on is because if you don't have a roof on your church, then you don't have to pay tax on it. So obviously some of the churches dilapidated and the roof caved in, obviously, in some of them, but sometimes they took the roof off and they didn't have to pay taxes. And of course, the old church in Portrush, they took the roof off it and sold it, so they did. So there you go. So this is another old grave here. And it's hard to make out some of the writing. I think it's William somebody. And he died in May 1795, if you can see that. So that's another 18th century grave. And it's great that the grass is cut. I love it when the grass is cut in these graveyards. Easier to find stones, to reach stones, and you also don't end up falling in the long grass. And I can't afford to fall with my bad knees. And I'll be able to take you in here. So, isn't that fantastic? Now, this church was completed in the late 1630s, and it's called St. Cuthbert's Old Church. And it was dedicated to the Northumbrian monk. Now, the Earl of Antrim, Randall MacDonald, who resided at Dunluce Castle, he married Catherine Manners, and I hope to do a wee video at Dunluce Castle, hopefully tomorrow. The castle's fantastic. And so he married Catherine Manners, and here you can see a couple of old graves here. I think these are from the 19th century. And you can see the crests on them. And it was Catherine who is credited with restoring St. Cuthbert's back to a functioning church. And both the Earl and the Countess were of the Catholic faith, yet they provided places of worship for the mainly Protestant settlers in their territories. And of course, this was a unique occurrence in the 17th century in Ulster, because at that time religious tolerance wasn't popular. In fact, it was a rarity. And this slab here is also from the 18th century. It's a massive slab. Now, I'm not going to read all this. I could make a lot of it out, but I'm just not going to read it. If you want to pause the video and try and read it yourself, then work away. But I'll read a wee bit if I can. So it's, let me see, who have I got here? Well, it's hard to make out, to be honest. But you can see the date there, 1784. But it's very hard to make out. If you're on top of it, you can read it, but I'll not be getting on top of it, because the writing is pretty plain. It's just hard to see from this angle. So that's a 18th century slab. Fantastic, isn't it? see what we've got here. If I'm right on iPad, I don't know. It's hard to see with the light. So maybe you will be able to read that through the video, because sometimes the video is brighter than what it actually is when you're looking at it live. So that is from the 18th century, which is probably one of the biggest slabs that I've ever seen, to be honest. So we're going to go to the church now. And so the church served the parish of Dunluce from the late 1620s until 1821, whenever the new church of St John the Baptist was built in Bushmills, which is just down the road. And this church here, St Cuthbert's, actually replaced an earlier medieval church, so it did. Now, local tradition tells us that some sailors and noblemen of the Spanish Armada are actually buried in this old graveyard. Interestingly enough, and I'm going to show you a plaque to those very shortly. You can see the cows all herdled together. And of course, the Spanish Armada tried to invade England in 1588 under Philip II, who was the King of Spain. And it was a complete disaster for Philip. And a lot of the ships were destroyed in a great storm at sea. And of course, some of the ships trying to return home were destroyed off the coast of Ireland and in County Antrim. And of course, some of the cannon, etc., and stuff from the ships are in the museums here. There's a cannon and other stuff from one of the ships in the Belfast Museum, and also the museum in Derry London has some artefacts as well of the Spanish Armada. And so that was in 1588, and as I say, it was a complete disaster for Philip II, and Queen Elizabeth I was on the throne of England. Now, so this is the memorial here. Not a very big memorial, but even so, it's great to have it. And it says, in memory of the lost crew members of the Corona, that was the Spanish ship, a galleass of the Great Spanish Armada, sank on the 26th of October 1588. So that's incredible, isn't it? So here, Portrush and Dunluce has a connection with the Spanish Armada, and according to local tradition, some of those Spanish sailors and noblemen are actually buried in this graveyard. So I'll let you ponder that, and thanks for watching. God bless.